I think so. We have to get Nicole's.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. This is the appointed and advertised time for our November 20th, 2017 Aleppo legislative meeting. I call this meeting to order. Last week, Solicitor Stone and I had the pleasure of spending the day in court together. So in honor of that time that we spent together, Solicitor Stone, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Wow, no good details.
I don't think the solicitors ever had this one. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Take a roll call, please.
President Dobler,
Present.
Vice President Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Darrow,
Present.
Commissioner DePlaga, Solicitor Stone,
Here.
Manager Patterson.
Here.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Nothing like a little brush up in the municipality to bring everybody out to our meetings, huh? Thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate everybody being here. I know this is, it's never easy on a weeknight to come out here. I appreciate everybody coming out, and I appreciate everybody's thoughts that we'll hear tonight. So thank you for being here. For those of you who have not been here in some time, you see behind you there's a sign that says this proceeding is being recorded. Please take notice that all of our meetings in Aleppo Township are recorded and placed on the internet. I'm sure plenty of you have seen some of these meetings that are recorded on the internet. To give you some detail of how exactly this works, it means that the meetings are being streamed live now. So I can tell you that this meeting is going out over YouTube, and we already have one viewer. So it's going out live now. It is also recorded, and it's saved on the internet automatically, and it stays there forever. So all that means be on your best behavior tonight, because you can't take back anything that you say. It's out there, and it's out there for good. Okay, so with those formalities out of the way, let's entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the workshop meeting from last week.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I think there's some slight revisions that need to be done to the minutes.
You have revisions to offer?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 3, my motion was to review this, extend it to review the second option, but, you know, we're going to review both. That's what I said. And then when we discussed code enforcement, I thought we had discussed that we would use our existing person and then, you know, possibly use this other person on a case by case. It doesn't really say that we would use our existing person for the discussion of code enforcement. I can see on page 5.
Okay, so let's take these one at a time. Your motion, which page are you on for your motion?
Page 3,
Okay.
third to
Commissioner
last.
DePlaga made a motion to extend the period of time to review both options.
It was the second option, which was amending our code to allow for this type of use versus the first option that was proposed by Masonic. It was an extension, but it was a little more specific because we really discussed the first option. I wanted more feedback on the second option
Okay.
as
So
a discussion.
I've changed it from Commissioner DePlaga made a motion to extend the time period to review the second option.
Yes.
That's what you want? Okay. And then your second choice? Or
Page 5, C, discussion of code enforcement. I believe we discussed that we would continue to use our existing code enforcement official and then consider the agency, the organization we proposed last week in the proposal on a case-by-case basis. I think that was the conclusion. It just doesn't really state that we would continue to use our person in there. So that was kind of what my conclusion was of that discussion. Is that accurate? Does everyone agree with what was said?
Well, I mean, my recollection is that we chose, no action was taken. So by definition, the status quo stays where it is.
Okay, well, I just wanted clarification because that was what was said during the meeting. So I thought that was an important point, how we were going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, there's no action on the table with respect.
You just admitted to say the status quo remains.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm making a note on page 5, paragraph C, following what's there, the status quo remains the same.
That's good.
With respect to those changes, first of all, does anybody have any other changes? All right, then there's a motion and a second. Can I consider the motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Agreed.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're turning to our reports. Public safety report.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Hey, Chief.
Busy place here tonight, huh? How you doing?
Good.
All right, following is kind of police activity in Lipple Township for the month of October. All right, starting out with, we had a theft. This was an individual who was going over to one of the businesses in the park here, and he was going into their dumpster and taking scrap. We were able to identify the individual. We have cited him. Alibi was he thought they didn't mind him taking the scrap, but they didn't mind. Ordinance violation. For reminder, people think that they can go into the woods and just randomly shoot firearms. Well, you can't do that. You can hunt, but you just can't go in target practice.
We had that same complaint last month.
You get a lot of these. Especially this time of year, people go out and take their guns and I guess they're sighting them in or whatever they're doing, and they go out in the woods and set up a target. And the problem is, sometimes it's rifles and there's no backstop, and it's not safe. Disorderly conduct. This individual was fired from one of the businesses in the industrial park here. We arrived, calmed her down, sent her on her way, and everything seemed to be okay. Individual that had some medical issues leaned out of a window and actually out to Masonic Village and fell out onto a ledge. He was okay. He had some brain problems, and I believe, and it caused him to just lean forward and fall out. Some suspicious person reports. Individual walked up to the house, said he was lost. When they turned around, they went back in the house, come back out, and he disappeared. So we scoured the area and didn't find anybody. Another individual was asked if some juveniles were walking in their backyard, asked if we would contact these individuals and tell them not to pass through their backyards. This was an individual was running for councilman, and he was canvassing the area for future election. Okay. Fire alarm, open doors. They'll do a report on that guy when they ride around at night. It's late at night. They see someone's garage door open or a door open. They'll stop and ask them, "Hey, you forgot to shut your door. Maybe you want to do that." Some parking problems in Masonic Village. We were able to run some plates and get it all figured out for them. Wires and poles down. Misdelivered package. We were able to locate the rightful owner of the package. Lots of animal complaints. There's a rash of sick raccoons. We're killing 1, 2, sometimes 3 a day. We're not sure if it's rabies. They suffer from numerous ailments, but you see them in the daytime, they're out stumbling around. There's something wrong, but it's gotten to be almost every day that we're dispatching them. This time of year is a big deer time. Deer are in the rut and they're moving around. Guys are hunting, they're moving them around, so we're suffering a lot of deer accidents. I think there's 4 of them that were involved with deer. This was a deer was actually hit by a motorist. The guys have been conducting some traffic posts up on Weber Road. You notice them up there?
We heard.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
They've been sitting up there and stopping them mostly for the stop sign. Because they're not getting the speed, but they are going through the stop sign.
They were issuing citations?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, assist other agencies, these are assists, so we assist the state police on the interstate, so they show up on Aleppos. And 911 hang-up call. That's all I have. If you have any questions?
Has there been any progress in Harrisburg in regard to the use of radar?
It's pretty close, pretty close.
It passed.
When it won- Yeah, it's in one committee and out to the next. It's pretty close. It's as close as it's ever been.
Oh, it's farther than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Good.
It's either the House or the Senate, the State House or the Senate. It passed, I think it was the House,
It passed one.
which was something they had never done before.
And the forgiveness speed at that point will be?
No, the version that passed the House said you still have to maintain the 10-mile-per-hour buffer.
Okay.
You have to redo it.
Is that because of the calibration of the radar?
No, they're just trying to put some more restrictions on it so it doesn't get to where smaller, they're worried smaller agencies are just going to use it to generate revenue and whatnot and just abuse it. So they still want to allow the buffer in there. And there'll be other restrictions as to who can use it. I haven't read the whole bill, but I'm sure there'll be little things in there to get it passed.
The version that passed whatever side required, I think, annual calibration, which is pretty normal. That's what you do with the Vascar now anyhow, right? User training, nothing you would.
And 10 miles per hour.
10 miles per hour.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else?
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, emergency management. Yeah, I mean, the only report that I'll give is just a further update. Gwen and I do continue to meet. She and I meet for a variety of things, generally about once a week. And one of the things that we've continued to work on, and we continue to take baby steps towards, is emergency management preparation. So in particular, what we've been working on is there's a cart in that back room back there, and really sort of outfitting the cart with really stupid proof directions for if you get here, what do you do when you get here? If you're the first person here in an emergency, where are the keys to the various places? I mean, just sort of general, compiling a list of phone numbers. So if you're the first person here, who should you call and in what order should you call them? So, those kinds of really practical little things that are not necessarily on the Allegheny County plan, but they're there. I'll also add, with respect to emergency management, that I attended a mayor's and president's breakfast in Swickley Borough 2 weeks ago, which is an event that we do quarterly. And one of the major issues that came up there was emergency preparedness. Not to put words into everybody else's mouth, but lots of people were saying we feel underprepared in this respect. We feel as if we're drowning. A number were similar to us where they have no emergency management coordinator appointed. And so there was some discussion as to whether or not there was something that we could do to try to centralize those efforts. And really nothing concrete came out of it, but it's definitely an area that it sounds as if the other municipalities are interested in consolidating on. So I don't know where that goes. I don't know how we feel, because I think we're probably one of the more prepared.
So, yes, we are.
It's worth letting you know it's out there. All right, so fire company,
No report.
Public Works.
Well, as you can see on the reports that we worked on the salt spreaders for our trucks, which are already in the trucks. Of course, we've been nothing but blowing leaves lately on the road to keep these catch basins cleaned out and so forth. And of course, put the spreaders in the trucks and built shelves in the garage to keep equipment on. And that's the mode we're in right now.
Do you have any questions?
important question. Are you satisfied with the budget as it stands?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Tom. Okay, communications. There are a slew of emails and letters that I received with respect to the Masonic Children's Home. I will save those and I'll read those when we get to old business on the agenda. We, however, received a couple messages on two other issues. The first one was from resident Dave Cranston. Hi, Matt. Are you aware of the fact that PA passed a huge expansion of gambling in Pennsylvania? It would now be possible to put a mini casino here in Aleppo. It can be avoided by passing a resolution by the council, but it has to be done and submitted before the end of the year. Below is a clear explanation as to what is at stake and how easily it can be avoided. And he forwarded an article called "Act Quickly to Keep Gambling Out of Your Backyard."
Just to interject, I'm aware of that. Chris and I are both aware of it, and we were preparing a similar letter with a recommendation to go out to all of our municipalities. So you'll get something from us, a recommendation on how you can either opt in or opt out of this gambling program.
Deadline correct, that it's got to be by the end of the year?
That is the deadline.
So do we expect that we're going to get this letter from you sometime
Yeah.
soon?
Yeah, no, I just reviewed it. I mean, this and the as is usual with Harrisburg. I mean, the notice that this is becoming, has a deadline and everything associated with it really came out late in the fall. I mean, it was like early October when people started learning about it. So I don't know whether they'll extend the deadline. I doubt it, but we'll have something to you shortly, and you'll have plenty of time if you want to opt out of that program.
So the deadline is for opting out.
The deadline is to opt out.
Okay, so you think you'll have that, you'll letter to us by the workshop meeting of next month?
I reviewed it Friday.
Okay.
So I know Chris was drafting it, and I reviewed it Friday, so it should, you'll have it any day.
So we can put that on the agenda for the workshop meeting in December, and then we can, if we're going to take action on it.
You can
vote
act on it at your legislature. Correct.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Cranston, for bringing that issue up. The next few emails all relate to the property maintenance issue that Commissioner DePlaga mentioned earlier. So this is two emails. The first is from resident Harry Mutters. Muters? Mr. Muters writes, I would not like to see the township add thousands of dollars to the budget to hire a headhunter to enforce property maintenance codes. We should be able to do this in-house. I am not used to composing emails, so excuse me if grammar, etc. may not be correct. I do have a question. You said on several occasions you have not driven around the township to see for yourself. As president of the board, don't you think that maybe you should make yourself more familiar with the area that you help govern? And I responded to him privately with respect to his concern about me driving around the township, but I know his issue with respect to the property maintenance code. Okay, the next message comes from Shirley Hassan, Hasson. I wanted to send a comment regarding the enforcement of property maintenance. I disagree with hiring the professional services of Craig McVicker. During the meeting, you mentioned that he could not trespass on private property. I understand that to mean he could not drive his vehicle up to a private drive or walk on the private property. Will he be able to use a drone to check property? Will he be able to cite in situations where the township has not received complaints regarding the homeowner's property? I do not think a professional, other than the code enforcement officer currently employed by Aleppo Township, is worth my tax dollars. Mr. McVicker only makes money when he is prosecuting someone. That incents him to be more aggressive than is needed or necessary. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. All right, so as I said, those are the messages that we received above and beyond the Masonic zoning issue, which we'll address at that time in old business. Does anybody have any comments with respect to any of that?
No.
All right, that's all for my communications report then. Planning and zoning,
No report.
tax collector.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Well, thank
Good
you.
evening. You all should have the month of October taxes collected and the account ending balances. So for the month of October, we collected a total of $14,758.98 in taxes. You can see the breakdown in the report for that. You can kind of also see the year-to-date totals as compared to the budget. We're about 16,000, almost 17,000 above what we had projected, and we still have 2 months to go. So we're doing fairly well with that. As far as the ending account balances, the PNC checking account, you should have $129,585.57 in there. The Pliget accounts, the state fund, you have $82,541.10. The general investment, the savings account, is $936,277.06. The reserve fund has $105,008.15. And the capital improvement fund has $560,269.10. If you add all that up, total monies on hand is $1,813,680.98. When you take out the pledged funds and the targeted funds, net operating funds for the month of October is $1,065,862.63. Also, in the Pliget account are the sewer bond account and the sewer capital account as well, and those numbers are stated there as well. The next 2 pages are just the normal bar graphs comparing this October to last October, this year-to-date number to the budget, and then where we were in 2016 year-to-date compared to the 2016 budget, and then year-to-date 2017 to year-to-date 2016 numbers. So
I see where we're $14,000 negative variance in compared to
from 2016.
16.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
What's the graph on that look like? Are we going to catch up, or are we going to have a short?
That's comparing 2016.
That's 16 against budget.
Yeah,
Oh,
against
sorry.
budget. Yep. So the main number that you want to see would be the second one, which would be the 16,000.
Yeah.
So where we're ahead of schedule. So any questions? And then I know you're going to be working on the budget as well. And so once we get those numbers, we'll kind of make sure everything's set up.
All of your input on the budget is in place?
Yeah, Gwen and I have talked. So and she's given me all the preliminaries. I know there was a few changes, but once you approve what has been discussed, we'll go from there. So, thanks.
All right, so next on our agenda is a motion as printed.
I move to approve the October bill list in the amount of $49,150.54, to ratify October prepaid bills in the amount of $29,151.67, and to ratify October payroll transfers in the amount of $25,726.17.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you. Okay, Aleppo Township Authority.
I have a couple of things to report. The Culligan water issue is, we have now had some time back meeting with their upper echelon people who were, at that time didn't seem concerned until we had traced the erosion back to their front door. And all of a sudden they had an attitudinal change. They have already put in 2 pH testers inside their plant, and we are going to get reports of those tests at the same time as they do. So apparently we caught their attention. What was suggested at the last authority meeting was for sort of a little bit of insurance that we put one of the pH testers upstream from the Culligan plant to prove that there's no one contributing to the illegal flow. That will probably, it may have already occurred to get those installed. It's only a matter of renting the pH testers and paying for the lab to run the tests, which is a matter of a few $100s. So a lot less than a lawyer. So that was approved. We're going to proceed in that direction.
But they're paying for those testers, right?
Yes. And our ordinance requires that.
At this point, is there a discharge meeting, whatever the pH limit is?
I don't know that because we haven't received a test or a report yet. But one of the things that we found out was that all of us who had visited the site had assumed that there was some flow of acidic discharge going in because they use acid in their process. But the truth of the matter is also in their process, they use some brine. And that's what's really eroding the concrete. Concrete and brine do not like each other. Look at what the salt does to your roads. And so that's going to be the issue. And then we'll have to get together with Culligan, come to an agreement as to what repairs are required and go forward from there. At this time, I do not see any issues, quite frankly. They were very contrite and surprised that they knew nothing about the discharge coming out of that plant.
DEP been involved at all?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know why not, but not to my knowledge. And they have not self-reported. On to another issue. As everyone is probably aware, we have had perpetual pumping problems at the pumping station down on Deer Run Road. They have not been functioning properly, more or less, since they were installed. We have spent a lot of time and effort trying to figure out what was wrong with the piping format and also some of the equipment on it. We made some adjustments which we thought were going to clear up the problem. None of them worked. And so we fell back and said, let's take a look and do an analysis and engineering study on the entire operation systems and find out just what is what. We have all reached a conclusion that the two big German pumps that are in the pumping plant are not the correct pumps, in our opinion. They are running at way too high a revolution to try to create enough draw up over this hill. And so the outcome is that right now, one preliminary meeting, and we'll get another one in next Thursday, engineers, but our outlook now is to take out the current pumps, reformat the piping system, which will remove about piping. The pumps, at the present time, one pump runs dry, the other is a submergible. In the new format, both of the pumps will be almost bolted together, and both of them will run dry. So we've, in the meantime, I was concerned about the number of alarms that we were getting that would be false alarms. And we didn't know exactly what to make of those. But Bill Davis assured me that they were legitimate, but he couldn't figure out. And when he arrives at the pumping station, it always seems like something else is wrong rather than what's being alarmed. Well, the reason is that the control panel down there is not wired properly. And so it's working perfectly well, except that our man's being sent to the wrong place. So we had a systems integrating engineer come in probably 5 or 6 months ago now and go over that entire operation down there from a performance standpoint, not an engineering standpoint, meaning engineering of trying to create what's wrong. This is what's happening to you and what can be made right. He gave us a list of about 14 issues, I'll call them, where the controlling apparatus and the alarm apparatus were not working together. So when depending upon what we do in terms of the pumps, we are also budgeting in to rewire the control panel from get-go. So whatever mistakes are there, we'll have a chance to make our own mistakes.
So what's the timeline on this?
Well, this is not something we should spend any time on. We are right now down to one pump. These are German pumps. The parts come from Germany. And so last month, I think when we'll clarify if necessary, we found ourselves in a crisis situation in terms of pump availability. That got alleviated, but with the way things are going, it will reoccur. So I would suspect that as soon as we get the budget approved and we're already staging ourselves to get moving, I would say that we'll be done late this fall or early winter.
The new pumps, where are those from? The new dry pumps that you were mentioning, that they might be replaced by, are those also from Germany?
No,
Oh.
they're going to be domestically made pumps,
So parts.
have parts in-house, a local distributor, and so on. Whatever it is that makes sense from an engineering standpoint, and the way it was done, in my mind, it was not done properly. So that's where we stand. It's been a long road trying to figure out.
Has the cost for doing that been factored into the rate for the Ellicott Township Authority sewer?
I was not involved in the budget, but I think that we gave the people enough money, enough information. The rewiring of the integrate and reintegration of the surface system down there is divided into two sections. Do it now and do it when it's convenient. So we will concentrate on what to do it now. And that will run around $18,000 to $22,000. The pumps don't know yet because we haven't chosen the specifications, but they'll be less than the German pumps because they run. Oh, Gwen, what do they run? About $7,000, $8,000 a copy?
I think it could be close to 10 sometimes. Depends on the repair.
Yeah. So when one of those goes out, it's a very, very expensive routine, and it takes a lot of time. So it's not the way that we can survive going forward. It's just not the way. But I suspect that we're looking at $40,000 to $50,000. That's a wild guess, okay? Because I really don't know. Just a gut feel from what I've heard. So, any questions?
And then you had it under warranty? Who put the stuff in?
Oh, they've been out of warranty for some time. That pumping station down there is, when, what, 6 years old?
4 to 5.
5?
4 to
Yeah.
5.
And the warranty is only a year.
Who engineered it? Who made the recommendations for that?
We know them personally.
Well, I'm a little
So
confused.
I'm gonna interrupt, and I'm gonna,
All right, I can
unfortunately
say,
say that we're gonna, this is an executive session conversation.
all right,
Because it touches on issues of potential litigation.
it touches on issues of $40,000 to $50,000. And I'm just curious, it's budgeted, we're gonna cover it. So to me, that should be something of public information, Matt, how that money,
Okay, but do you hear me saying that it
No,
touches on
I
something
did.
of actual litigation?
yes.
We're currently in court in litigation with the people responsible for designing and installing those pumps. And
Thank you.
because of that, we cannot comment on what's going on in the lawsuit.
Perfect. Got it now.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, thank you. QB Con, we didn't get our memo, did we? Or did you put it in there?
I did, I put it in. Maybe you didn't get your edit separately.
Well, I can tell you, let me see here, I haven't necessarily seen it, but we discussed the budget for the COG. And fortunately, the budget for next year does not include an increase in dues. It does include some new revenue sources in terms of programming. So as I've said before, she's trying to move towards a pay per event type model rather than a entirely dues-based model. So some of the things along the lines of GIS we've talked about, she's hoping to raise some revenue from GIS. And I do think that's something that we're really going to be confronting in 2018. They submitted a 904 recycling performance grant application. We're waiting to hear whether or not that's been approved. Gwen is participating in the recycling committee, I presume. Anything you want to say about that?
We haven't met since the last time, so we'll be looking at feasibility of recycling and for the long term.
We had our annual dinner back in October, and I think suffice to say it was a nice evening, and we had a nice turnout. We were well represented by LEPO. Thank you to those of you who attended.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
That we recognized Commissioner Scholar's retirement. The COG recognized that, so she was recognized for her 9.5 years as serving as commissioner too. So that was very nice. She joined us.
There were pre-applications that were submitted. We did not submit one in Aleppo. And as I said, the budget was introduced. Echoes what I've said. So any other questions with respect to the COG? All right. Ambulance Authority?
I have a quick report from Mary Carolyn Nash. The ambulance trips increased in September, and Quaker Valley, along with 6 other ambulance services, are going to participate in a pilot program with Highmark called Treat/No Transport. It will be overseen by medical command direction. There are times patients refuse to go to the hospital after someone has called for an ambulance. For example, perhaps a diabetic who is unresponsive and they give the medication to go to the hospital because they're better. In the past, there was no way to recover the cost of the medication and equipment used. With this pilot study, the services will be reimbursed $500 per call if the patient is a Highmark subscriber. This program may have a significant impact on future reimbursement by all insurance companies. And number 3, donation requests have been mailed out to residents, and $9,500 has already been received.
How much?
$9,500.
All right, thank you, Mary Carolyn. MS4.
My report is that the crews are doing their part to keep the catch basins clean by blowing leaves out of the catch basins and away from the road where they end up in the catch basin. So that's an ongoing maintenance event.
You know, I'll share a story by way of public education. I was downtown and I was walking in front of a building and there's a guy sweeping up off the sidewalk, a maintenance guy for the adjacent landowner, sweeping up into one of those little things that they catch the stuff in. And he walked over to the storm sewer and he took all the stuff that he had collected in there and smacked it out in the storm sewer. And I went up there and said, "What's wrong with you? Haven't you heard of MS4? He said, "No, I haven't." Then your municipality is not doing a good job of public education. Okay, solicitor. All right, on to old business. And our first matter of old business is the Masonic Children's Home. Now, at last month's meeting, we heard a presentation from Masonic Village asking for an amendment to the Aleppo Township zoning ordinance, and we placed 2 motions on the table. You see the motions here. The first motion was to amend the text of the zoning ordinance to add a definition for a children's care home and to amend the definition of a continuing care and retirement home community and life care, faculty, or senior living community as specified in a letter dated October 19, 2017 from the Masonic Village, and then to send that application to the Township Planning Commission and to the county for further proceedings. That was the first motion that was made and seconded and then deferred for 1 week. The second motion that was made was to extend the time period to review, and I did have both options here as well. Commissioner DePlaga, you meant that to be what? The second option?
Yes.
Okay, and that motion was made, seconded, and then deferred for 1 week to be discussed here today as well. I think it's appropriate at this point, before we do anything, to read some emails that we've received in the interim, and then to take public comment. Okay, the first email that I have is from Amy Benedict. It says, "Hi, Matt. I attended the township meeting at the fire hall last night. I wanted to share my thoughts on the Masonic Children's Home. I retired in June from QV after 33 years. I was the high school nurse, you may remember, and health services coordinator. So I worked with thousands of children and families over my career. When Masonic Home finished their presentation, I was very excited. I can't tell you how many times some of the QV staff and I wished we could purchase Victory Terrace and turn it into dorm-type living for students with house parents and tutors. There are so many students within QB who would benefit greatly from an opportunity like this. I believe parents are out there as well who would love access to this program. As a school nurse, I worked with Girls from Girls Hope, a similar type program run by the Sisters of St. Joseph. The girls in this program overall did very well. It was a life-changing situation for them. This program in Baden has only 8 girls at the time. Masonic has years of experience with this type of residency program, and from what was presented, it has been well run. They addressed my concerns: no court-placed students, no students with addiction problems. Almost all family visitation is off-site. I like that it is on their property. They fund it. It has limited number of children. They have house parents, tutors, counselors, and transportation for school events. The first option presented for wording changes is definitely the preferable one. As you saw, we are all upset. This is a separate issue, but I'll read it as well. As you saw, we are all upset with the house situation on Weber and the possibility of townhouses being built in single-family home areas. My husband and I do not think that hiring the enforcer full-time is acceptable. However, once the township has done due diligence and nothing is accomplished, it would be good to have someone who can follow up and get a positive outcome. There is property blight in our neighborhood, as you know. Thank you for bringing the meetings into the neighborhood. You ran a good meeting, Amy Benedict." All right, next is from Barbara Steinauer. "Hi, Matt. I specifically asked to be informed of any meetings or submitting by the Masonic Village to build anything, and I was told I would be, but none of the residents were informed of this meeting that went on regarding the request from Masonic Village Children's Home. This leads me to believe that there is something underhanded business going on. I really hope not. I was made aware of a recording tonight of Gwen Patterson telling a resident that all of the commissioners had already decided to vote yes before any public hearings. Is this true? I want to go on record stating that I am thoroughly against this." Next is from Bill Hinsman. Heinzman. "Dear Commissioners, we are concerned about the upcoming vote for a potential zoning change. A vote for this change will allow Masonic Village to proceed with plans for their homes for at-risk youth. We think there are many unanswered questions regarding this plan that need to be addressed prior to a vote. Multiple Redgate Road residents and even several residents from nearby Sewickley Heights Scaife Road have concerns. Some residents have been away due to the upcoming holiday and are totally unaware of these potential changes. We have a few questions we'd like you to think about. Number one, how many staff will be employed to help out with these students? Number two, what are the qualifications of the staff? Number three, how many parking spaces visible from our quiet residential street do they plan to have to accommodate these staff and visitors? Number 4, Mr. Murphy stated that they will not tolerate youth residents breaking the rules. How will this be handled? One cannot simply throw them out. It's not that simple. There are waiting lists for facilities that help children with psychiatric and drug addiction issues. Number 5, Masonic is buying up properties on our hill. At what point will our taxes go up to make up for taxes not collected from these homes? We know that Masonic pays some fees, but are they equal to taxes lost? Number 6, have they considered other locations on a residential street? Number 7, if this is allowed, what type of lighting restrictions will they have, if any? Number 8, Mr. Murphy stated that the children will be transported to and from activities at Quaker Valley. In our experience with our own children, we made multiple trips up and down the hill at different times daily. How many buses will be traveling back and forth to accommodate the activity needs for 16 and then ultimately 32 children? Number 9, has anyone thought about what is going to happen to our property values if these buildings start to look more like hospital campus instead of a quiet residential street? Number 10, when the plan for this youth home was first mentioned, it was stated that it would be, quote, centralized, end quote, on the Masonic campus. The plans look more like they are on the very edge of the Masonic community and centralized on Redgate Road. We have lived here since 1989. We have neighbors who have been here much longer. We moved here because it was a quiet street with a rural feel. The change in zoning could compromise the very reason we live here and have decided to stay here. Please help us stay in the home we love. We thank you for reviewing our concerns and serving our community. Most sincerely, Kathy and Bill Hinson. Okay, I received an email and a letter from Kathy Davidson, but I'm going to read only the later one that I received, which is a letter that was dated yesterday. Dear Commissioners, I am very strongly opposed to the recent plans proposed by the Masonic Village. I live one door down from the residential lot that they want to utilize, and I feel that the Commissioners need to veto this idea at the first stage. A group home, also called congregate care for troubled youth, disadvantaged, at risk, or whatever euphemism they wish to use, is a horrible idea for such a quiet residential neighborhood. There are no advantages to placing it in this area. As far as I know, there are no residents that support it. The lot they wish to use is in between two residents, and it is a lot with one home where they would cram several group homes and even more townhomes onto a small area. It is not on the Masonic, quote, campus, end quote. The reason I have lived on Redgate Road for 14 years is because it was quiet, peaceful, rural, farm-like, and did not feel, quote, commercial, end quote. While the Masonic Village has negatively impacted our road with its employees that speed constantly, litter in my yard, and are not generally good neighbors, another proposal that would bring even more traffic, more noise, more non-residents to the area, more safety concerns, decrease our property values dramatically, and bring a host of other issues is not welcome. I was shocked to hear about this proposal last Monday evening. No notices were given. No one notified those of us who live nearby that there would be something presented to the planning committee. Nothing. And this would bring extremely negative impacts to those of us on Redgate Road. These things need to be done in an open manner, and all residents should be well aware of them with time to prepare. As I was unaware of any meeting or activity on this matter, I will present just some of my concerns to you. First, I want Masonic to share all of their board minutes from the very first board meetings where this was mentioned, and any and all meetings where the topic of a proposed zoning change and, quote, children's home, end quote, were discussed. They must provide this as a 501c3 organization upon request. It appears that them being able to just build anything they want, even if it negatively impacts our neighborhood, is a foregone conclusion on their part. I would ask them to consider the community around them instead. Masonic Village calls itself a public charity and must be accountable to the public. There are so many negatives to this idea that it will be impossible to write them all in this letter. Just some of my concerns that I have no answers for are below. 1. Why does Masonic wish to add homes for disadvantaged, at-risk youth here now? 2. If they believe in youth homes, why wasn't this a priority years ago? With their large real estate portfolio, this could have been put on their main campus elsewhere long ago. 3. Again, if they want youth homes, there are 5 Masonic Village campuses in Pennsylvania. Why are youth homes not on all of them? 4, they bought a residential lot, not one zoned for multiple homes. If they wanted a lot zoned for such, it should have been bought one to begin with. 5, can Masonic provide at least 5 independent articles or studies showing that group homes, congregate care for troubled youth result in positive outcomes? 6, how did Masonic determine that 861 Redgate Road, a one-family home and segregated from the Masonic main area and its facilities, was the most ideal location out of all of Pennsylvania for a group home for these youths? What characteristics make it ideal versus a location where the youth could walk to work or school, attend activities easily, not have to drive or be driven literally everywhere, and so on? 7. What are the exact criteria for certain youth to be admitted? Who evaluates them? 8, where will these youths come from? Our community or somewhere else where they have no familiarity with the area? 9, how long is the average stay in this congregate care? What is the average age? 10, what is the success rate for these youths? How is success defined? 11, what are the credentials of the employees who would work with these youth? 12, how many proposed employees and where is all that extra traffic going to go? 13, what will Masonic do to compensate us for our decreased property values? Or are they trying to decrease these values and make us feel that they are taking over regardless, so we must sell to them? I won't. 14, how will Masonic ensure residential safety for those of us who live here? 15, how will Masonic reduce noise pollution, light pollution, traffic? 16, would employees have a new, open quote, shortcut, end quote, to race through this development to get to work? 17, the Masonic organization has over $11 million in a restricted fund for children's home activities. Why not take a small part of this money and buy a building in a centrally located facility? Or build on the main Masonic campus, not a super quiet residential street? 18, ask yourself, would you want 2 large residences with several dozen at-risk youth next to your own home? After you live somewhere for almost 15 years, how would you like to have the character of the place you live in changed so dramatically? 19, I have attached just a few of the many links to a number of articles stating facts about congregate care or group homes. Based on these reports, it seems to be unhelpful to overall youth. Why do we need this in our neighborhood when it is not a proven concept? And in fact, many child welfare advocates are not supportive of it. And there's a list to 3 articles. At this point, I will stop writing. While there is so much more, I'm exhausted from worrying about this awful development. My investment and feeling of peace and security in my home, the very place that I live, seems to be under assault constantly in the last few years by Masonic Village and their desire for more money and expansion. I'm tired of worrying whose home they will buy next, what they will build or buy to try to force us residents out, and so on. It is very upsetting and disheartening to see, and I hope the commissioners will listen to those of us who were here long before Masonic began trying to do, quote, whatever it wants, end quote, without any regard to longtime residents. Sincerely, Kathy Davidson. Next is an email from Christian Paschke, P-A-S-C-H-K-E. Thank you for the thorough update. Regarding the Masonic Village Children's Home proposal, my husband and I are not in favor of it. Our concern is the impact that the residents of the children's home could have on the Quaker Valley School District. The quality of the learning environment and low instances of disciplinary issues were a major factor in our decision to move to Aleppo. Introducing 32 new students from troubled family situations could result in distractions in the learning environment and require support from the QV School District guidance counselors and staff that they are not adequately staffed to support. We encourage you to take this perspective into consideration when you proceed with addressing the request. Next is Eric Goldstein. Matt, as an Aleppo resident that lives on Redgate Road, I would like to share my thoughts about the Masonic Village's request for a zoning amendment. Based on what I have read and heard about the proposed project to date, I would strongly object to the requested zoning amendment because the Masonic Village's planned expansion would not fit with the character of Redgate Road, which otherwise consists of single-family homes and would permanently change the feel of the neighborhood. This is not a specific objection to the Masonic Village's particular intended use of the property for children's homes, in addition to senior living villas, but rather a more general objection to rezoning Redgate Road for uses other than single-family residences. Masonic Village obviously has a very prominent location within Aleppo Township, but as currently constituted, its entrance, frontage on Merriman Street, and overall footprint do not disrupt the single-family character of the surrounding neighborhoods. By contrast, the planned expansion on the Redgate Road, as depicted on the Masonic Village's rendering, would insert 2 new group living homes and 8 senior living villas into a narrow area among pre-existing single-family homes on a street that is otherwise exclusively made up of single-family homes. Given that the Masonic Village would be setting up a second entrance to its facility on Redgate Road, I also have more practical concerns about traffic in and out of the new entrance, including the shuttle buses that would be needed to transport the new residents. I have no issue with Masonic Village as a neighbor, and there is clearly a place in Aleppo for all different types of properties, from single-family homes to group living facilities to commercial industrial businesses. But those distinct uses have already been well defined by our zoning code, and we have been relying by many families when choosing where to locate our homes. While there may be cases in which a zoning change is warranted due to a hardship, such a case. Masonic Village certainly suffers no hardship, rather it just desires further expansion. Not only would the proposed development forever change the feel of our street and our neighborhood, it would also clearly set a precedent for future expansion by Masonic Village if it were to buy up even more homes along Redgate Road. Having spoken to other residents of Redgate Road about this issue, I know for certain that these feelings are not unique to me and my wife. Given that further action on this matter has been tabled for tonight's meeting, this email may be premature, but I thought it was worth sharing sooner rather than later. I thank you for taking time to read this and would appreciate receiving notice of any future opportunities for me and my neighbors to share our concerns with the commissioners. Thank you. Last, Marnie Hayes. Good morning, Matt. Thank you for continuing to share the meeting with all of us. I did watch the video regarding the building of the children's home at Masonic, and I'm not convinced that this is a good idea at this time. First, the site looks cramped and crowded. Second, there are openings in eastern Pennsylvania, and I'm not convinced that there is truly a need here based on Masonic's reporting. I don't recall any reference to Quaker Valley School District, or school system, or the education of the children. What is the real reason why Masonic wants this program now? And I must admit, I definitely saw another email that I did not get in that list. Let's see if I can get it in 10 seconds or fewer. The sum and substance of it, it was from a resident of Masonic Village who had moved in there recently, was herself concerned about the impact that the proposed development would have on residents of Masonic Village themselves. Okay, so I've read those emails, and I will certainly now entertain comments from the community. I see that we have a large number of folks who have come to attend tonight. You know, I can sort of address some of the comments that have taken place here by way of a preamble to having it all come up, which is to say, I can tell you that my goal here is to have this proceeding be as transparent as possible. Nobody here wants to slip anything underneath the door. Or I shouldn't speak on behalf of the other commissioners. I don't want to have anything slipped underneath the door. That is absolutely not my plan. My plan is for everybody to find out as much as you can. What I've been saying to residents as they've emailed over the week is, if you want to stay in touch with the digest, of course, give me your email address. We will definitely keep it in the digest and let you know what's going on. You can watch every single meeting and every discussion. I think every commissioner up here can tell you that we are sticklers for the Sunshine Law in Aleppo Township, which means that we have no conversations about this outside of this meeting room. If you have a conversation and you're debating, if you have 3 commissioners or more, you have to do it in public and it has to be announced. So we are not discussing this privately. The conversations that you're seeing on the digest, on the videos, here when you come here, these are the only conversations that have been had with the forum of the commissioners. With respect to notice, we certainly will follow the letter of every single law concerning notice. It is impossible to call every single person every time this issue is coming up. So I encourage you to consider yourselves on notice that this issue is on the table. We only meet twice a month. If you want to guarantee yourself that you hear every second of every conversation, then I encourage you to come to both meetings until this issue is disposed of, because it's going to come up, right? It's going to come up every single meeting. And we'll hear from you every single meeting. We're not gonna sweep this under the rug. We're not gonna not let you have your piece. All right. That being said, and I'll say it one more time. I want to hear your voices. Okay. That being said, there's a limited number of hours in the day, so I would encourage you, if you have something to say that is certainly different from what we've already spent a significant amount of time hearing from residents, then by all means come forward. If you want to repeat yourself, then by all means come forward. But we have a limited amount of time, so I'm not going to set a time limit at this point, but I will reserve the right to do that if we get to the place where it's getting unwieldy. With that being said, you have something you wanted to add, Commissioner?
I just want to add that we have a responsibility to make an informed decision. And in order to make the informed decision, we heard from Masonic Village, we need to hear from the president of the township so that we can have everybody's perspective and take all of those ideas into consideration in making a decision. I can certainly say for myself, I have not made any decision one way or the other on this. I don't even know enough about it to do this. So
I would echo that sentiment myself. To the extent that there has ever been a suggestion that the commissioners have decided what's going to happen without having a hearing, I can't speak for the other 4 people up here. I can tell you that's not true, because I have not made up my mind, and I truly mean that. I do not know where I come down on this issue. I see both sides of it. Yes.
I just want to clarify one point, because I know it came up after the last meeting. That is, the motions that are on the table would merely initiate a process which would lead to more public hearings and open meetings and more education, both and input from the county, also input from the planning commission. So what you see up there by way of a motion would only start or initiate a much more detailed and a lengthier process with more opportunity for you to come and be heard at least 2 or 3 more times. No, I shouldn't say 2 or 3, 1 or 2 more times. So that said, I don't want people to think that these motions get voted on and it's a done deal at the time that we vote on these motions.
The motions are just to initiate the process and begin the process which includes public comment. I'll also add, because I don't think I necessarily said this tonight, but between last week and tonight, we received a letter from the attorney from Masonic Village saying that some questions came up last time that they didn't feel that had been fully answered. And so they asked us to not vote on these 2 motions tonight. They asked us to hold off on that until next month. So when we finish comment on this, I will be making a motion to table the first motion, this one. I'll be making a motion to table that for 30 days, and I anticipate Commissioner DePlaga will be doing something similar with respect to her motion. So procedurally speaking, that's where it looks like we'll end up. We'll end up talking about this tonight, hearing from you, and then we will be voting on it. We'll probably be talking about it at our workshop meeting again next month if you want to. And I can add, nobody's heard this except myself. I've been in touch with the superintendent of the Quaker Valley School District, Dr. Ondek, and I asked her to come to our workshop meeting next month. And she wrote that she would be unable to come to the workshop meeting, but that she would send us a letter with the school district's position on the matter. So I think that would be a valuable piece of information. I also reached out, is the chief still here? I also reached out to the chief, and he came up to me before the meeting and was trying to talk to me, and I was trying to get the technology set up so I didn't have an opportunity to speak to him. But I think it would be valuable if we could get some input, perhaps at the workshop meeting next time from the police department. I see his head nodding yes. So hopefully by the time that this gets voted on, 1 month from now at the next legislative meeting, we'll have much more input from some stakeholders who can give us a little bit more than just bare bones outlines. Okay. Any of the commissioners have anything they want to add before we turn it over?
Also, if you were here last week, I think you know that we asked some questions that they weren't able to answer. And so we don't even know what those answers are going to be yet.
Thank you. Commissioner DeBlair?
I just thought if anyone wants to discuss this, maybe we should have the site plan out somewhere where people can look at it to refresh their own memories. If anyone has one, I have one in the car from last week.
I can put it up on the screen here.
Thank you.
We all see that? All right. Okay, all that being said, anybody want to talk? Yes, sir. Why don't you put the phone up here so we can get him on the microphone, please?
I understand.
No, I need you to come up and get on the microphone, please.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'll remind you, these are being recorded, so,
Yeah, my
say
name
what
is
you mean and mean what you say.
Vincent Ferry. I live over here on Merriman Road. You were talking about this being on Redgate seems to be the main concern. Originally, like one of your emails a couple months ago, I heard at one of the meetings, someone just gave the idea, came out that it was supposed to be located somewhere other than that, down in the community more, that they wanted to be, that the kids could interact with the residents of the Masonic Village. Then there was some talk that they might be put over at near the house where on Highballa and Merriman Road is. So I guess I was just asking if it would be in another location other than Redgate, would you still have the same problem with it? I mean, what if they wanted to put it down in the back of the main building somewhere? Is that going to be an issue, or would they be able to do it there without going through all the procedures? Or would it be still require the same procedures?
All the same procedures was fine.
Okay, that was my basic thing. But if they could, have the right to locate another area, they might get away with it.
They're not zoned, it's not zoned presently to do what they want to do. So
Okay, the whole facility.
Correct.
Right.
They're all in R2.
Okay.
Actually, their whole operation is a conditional use, which is an exception to the zoning as it was originally proposed.
And everybody's worried about their home evaluations and stuff. I mean, there's not going to be any worry because they're buying up the whole thing anyway. There's not going to be any homes to worry about.
I think the difference I see is that on the other drive, the Merriman, there's a lot more of the properties are already owned by Masonic, are they not? So if they had it on that side, it wouldn't necessarily impact private owners as much. I may be wrong on that. I'm just.
Yeah, you would.
You're correct.
No. We live on Merriman and
All
we
right,
would affect us
come
a
up,
lot.
please, come up, please.
Sorry.
First of all,
What's your name, please?
Barbara Steinauer, I live at 1120 Merriman Road, right next to where it says Vish. 2 years ago, I came,
Wait, tell me,
Okay.
make sure I get a sense.
Yeah,
Show
see where
me-
Vish-
show here.
Vish is, I own
Right
the
in
two
the
houses
center,
next to
right?
this. Go down. Right there, I own that, and I own the property next to it.
That?
I own them both.
Okay.
2 years ago, I know a lot of you weren't on the board, but I came and asked for the little house right next to Vish's to be conditional use for an office. It was turned on immediately because it's not zoned that way. It's conditional use, spot zoning, the whole bit. Now, all of a sudden, I come here and I hear that they may get all that kind of zoning changed when I couldn't even get a little office building put in my little place. So I look at that and say, how can you even go one step farther when I didn't get off the rails with, all I wanted was to be able to put some offices in a small building there where there's no residential next to it. And now we're even considering putting that in where there's residential all around it. Not zoning, isn't that conditional use, just what I asked for? And didn't even get a hearing. I was told right off the bat, no, it is not going to happen. So that's where I'm saying, why are they getting special attention when the rest of the residents aren't? And I wouldn't have affected anybody's property value, where that's going to affect everybody's property value. So that's my biggest concern. Why do they get special treatment in consideration the rest of us don't? All I wanted was a little office building. It didn't even get to this far. Why?
Well, I don't think we can speak to along your application with Samara.
I understand that you weren't all here, but it's still the,
They're not getting special consideration. Any property owner has the right to come in and make a request such as they have made. We have an obligation to process that in accordance with our zoning code. And so all we're doing is we're following the zoning code. Don't assume, process their request that it's going to get approved.
okay. I'll take your word for that. If it won't get approved.
Nice try.
I'm a salesman. I'm gonna sell you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Barb Black, and I feel as though I'm really undereducated, and I don't even know what questions to ask. Where might I go to become educated on the background and all the things that with regard to the home?
Well, have you watched the meeting from last week?
I did.
Then you know everything we know.
That's all we know.
I mean,
I don't mean it to be. That's it.
Well, there are going to be further discussions as
All
Mike
right,
said.
okay. So I'm not that far off base. So there isn't a wealth of knowledge
Actually-
of which I'm not aware of.
We know just exactly what we heard last week.
Okay.
Okay, no more, no less. I live in Masonic Village,
Mhm.
and I can tell you that the information is not being broadcast around at that time
Mhm.
either.
Okay.
And Mr.
Murphy.
Murphy, thank you for saving me. Declined to answer a couple of the questions.
Okay.
Because of the zoning issue. He didn't know whether, I happen to know the way he functions. He does not like to commit to things when he doesn't know that he can really bring it through.
Understood, but I just appreciate that. I thought there was some wealth of information
No.
somewhere of which I had no access.
Aren't there some
Okay,
informational
that's fine.
links on one of the emails?
Well, there are some links that were sent concerning that they're from a resident. I don't know whether or not they're
Okay, that's fine. That's good. Thank you.
I mean, let me just underscore that. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say something else, because a lot of what you read raised really legitimate concerns from a zoning perspective. And so those would be the very types of things that we would be, I think you would want to raise in future consideration of the proposal. So for example, traffic patterns, traffic volume, those are all extremely legitimate considerations. And you wouldn't be doing your duty legally if you didn't inquire as to that, or if you didn't ask the chief, for example, what he thought, or the school district. So travel, traffic, these are all noise. I know one of the people was concerned about litter or trash. And so all those things are legitimate considerations for zoning approvals. And I would imagine they will be developed and will be part of the record and something that you as commissioners can consider in your deliberations.
And I really do want to underscore, I hope I've said this already once, or twice, or 3 times. Let me say it one more time. Make what's happening, be transparent, and I don't mean that as just lip service. The goal here is to do something that people have never seen before, where we actually have a proceeding, a deliberation, where you know everything we know. Right? We want you to see what's going on and see exactly how this is all playing out. And that truly is my goal. Whether or not we're going to come to the decision you want, I don't know. But at least you'll see everything that goes on. So now with that thought in mind, and I've, again, not told the commissioners this, but at the meeting last week, one of the presenters offered to us that if we wanted to go to Elizabethtown, we could go out there and take a look at their facility. And so I took them up on that. So I said to them, I'd like to travel out there, and we haven't necessarily set a date, but I definitely think it's going to happen sometime before the December workshop meeting. So my intention is to go out there and take a tour and meet some of the people there and get a sense of what we're talking about. So I will definitely have that, and I'll be able to come back and tell you what I thought about all that. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Art Capuzzi, Weber Road. I'd like to thank the people that came I spoke to you last week. I love when they can exercise this openness to express their issues. I'd like to ask Solicitor Stone about the hearings. Would there be public hearings before the zoning is even considered?
Yeah, we could not legally change our ordinance without at least one public hearing.
At least one.
Right, so we could get into a hearing and we could discover that we have more questions, or we could discover that the information that was being supplied at that time wasn't sufficient to make a vote, and we could continue that and hold a second hearing. And we could do that indefinitely until we were prepared to make a decision.
Well, the planning commission can conduct a hearing.
Well, the planning commission will have to. So both the planning commission and us will hold hearings.
And the planning commission meeting is open also to the public?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been to one or two of those. So I don't just bother you guys.
And the process is that the planning commission and Allegheny County Department of Development review any change or proposed change in our zoning. We have to wait at least 30 days. And in the county's case, sometimes we hear back from them, sometimes we don't. But the idea is that the planning commission and county development are recommending bodies with any recommendations that they think should be built into any zoning amendment. And they've done that frequently in the past.
I'd also like to, I hate to refer to you anonymously, but last week when we were out in the hall, I kind of expressed my need for youth homes, being my exposure to being an educator and volunteering. I have went and viewed that area. I have considerable reservations. I agree with a lot of the things that they have expressed. So I want to support them in their questioning. One last thing, the villas that they proposed, how much land do you need? Setbacks and from the property lines? And didn't look to me like you could squeeze much in there. Well, from the property lines also.
Depends on your ordinance.
I don't know that that.
Yeah,
covers the scale.
There's two sketches and then there was a color one. The color one, they weren't, two sketches, remember last week? They
Yeah.
said that they weren't gonna use the one that was in color.
Yeah.
And they had the two sketches below that. Yes, so there you go, there's the two there.
Right, it was more of an engineering drawing.
They said, let's see here, they're all spun around.
Yeah, the road is totally different in this.
In order to construct, they would need to get a building permit. In order to get a building permit, they're gonna have to meet all the code requirements.
Well, that I understand. I guess I was just curious about, do they get different, are the setbacks different because they're in that kind of community? They own all that land, so they don't.
It's an R2 district. The R2 district requirements apply.
None of the amendments, none of the proposed amendments change any of those.
No,
All they do
that
is
I
allow them
understand.
to make a different use in the R2 district.
I
Okay.
see the setbacks
Yeah, they do mention the setback.
on the lines there and up. And you can see the setbacks are right up against the existing villas now, so
Setback
they're.
over here.
Also another sketch, so you want to look at that one too. It's different.
Right.
Yeah, it looked different, didn't it, than the
It
one?
does.
And there's another one.
Yeah,
Right. I don't think
that's the one with the
scale.
emergency road, right?
Yeah, you mean the hand drawing.
The hand one, yeah.
No, I don't think so. All right, it's a point well taken though.
Thank you.
There was one thing one comment, I don't remember who made it, concerned about the children in cars. The children will not have their own vehicles. The only transportation will be provided by
He was specific about that.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. License, but they can't get a car.
Correct.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Yes?
I live on Redgate Road.
Would you identify yourself, please?
Kathleen Davidson. I've lived there for a long time. And this entire philosophy that the Masonic Village has is ruining my life. I am really, really tired of living here, and every day I wonder what they're going to do to decrease my property value, to drive me out of my home, to try to buy my home, to put pressure on me to give my home to them, etc. This just needs to stop. I have worked very hard to afford my home, to live there peacefully. And as I said, every time you turn around, they're putting a wrench. I know I'm one person, not too important. I don't have their multi-million-dollar endowment, but this just needs to stop. Is there anybody in here, please raise your hand, that wants to see this home on that road? Did anyone raise their hand?
I don't know enough about it to vote.
So you are hearing from all the residents here. We've looked into it. We've looked at their website. Some of us have called them. They have no facts. They're simply looking to monetize a building they bought, as many things as they can onto that lot. They didn't check with any residents. They didn't send us information. If they didn't want us to know and they wanted to be open, why would they not have sent us all their lovely brochures, which have no facts at all in them as to the success of these children? I sent you a bunch of links, all of which say even the United States Congress feels these homes are not a good idea for children. I would encourage you to check out those reports. I called this home and asked what their statistics were. They had none. I asked them what their definition of success was, how many children were successful. Well, that depends how you define success. There are no facts. Child welfare organizations say that you must monitor and you should be able to report all of these things. And we're talking about being open. The Masonic Village, and we're not saying you're not open, we're saying they're not open. I gave one their website, I believe she printed it, where back in May, they were saying this was a done deal and they're soliciting contributions for this development that has not even been approved. That means they don't care what the citizens here say. They're assuming they're pushing it through. That is just wrong. Do you have that printout? Yeah. So I just really hope that you'll do the right thing and keep our quiet and peaceful community that way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This will be short. I just have a question. Maybe, I know this was last week, but anyway.
Absolutely.
I couldn't get up. Sandy Moore,
Hey,
Redgate
Mr.
Road.
Capuzzi, your purse.
I know.
There's a brick. You guys better pay attention.
Yeah, so what time?
38, you better watch.
Oh.
No. One of those.
All right, I'm
Anyway.
sorry, I interrupted you while you were identifying yourself. Would you
That's
identify
okay.
yourself, please?
I'm the anonymous, no. Okay, I'm Sandy Moore, Redgate Road. They live, there's two lots. The yellow house is one lot. If you go towards Merriman, there's the Ian Keller house that was raised. So that's two Ian Keller properties, so to speak, that are not both Masonic. Then there's my house, okay? And then they own Size and Sherman's to the corner. So anyway, just to get a feel for where I am in their mix. But I thought there was a lot of good email response. I I liked what I heard. But I have a question about, and I probably missed this, on the agenda that you guys passed out. And it talks about how they want to amend the text, the zoning ordinance. And it's definition for continuing care retirement community. How are they amending that? I mean, I don't, I have this other thing, but.
They had two different suggestions as to how we might proceed. One suggestion was to take the current conditional use, which allows for a retirement living continuing care facility, and amend that definition to include a youth home. The other proposal I made was to rezone in terms of creating a use that would be a youth home, period.
Okay, so
And
that.
the process for those two procedures is different.
Okay, so in a
The
sense,
process isn't different, but the outcome is.
it's different, yeah, because then more people could own youth group homes, I guess.
You'd amend the entire R2 district to provide.
So we could all have a youth group homes,
Correct.
and be all in competition with them.
Correct.
Okay, so, and that's just kind of basically saying they're amending what they currently have as their conditional use as a retirement care community.
Correct.
Is that what that means?
Yes.
Okay, and I guess just a point of, I grew up in Emsworth, and a family I knew has 18, or that I know, had 18 children, one every year. They skipped 1 year, but then they had twins. Then they had 13, so they had to go for the other half dozen. And I can tell you, yes, exactly. So you said, wow, that means that's a lot of children.
Yes.
And they're all different ages.
Yeah.
And some of these children are going to be the same age. It's going to be a heck of a handful. So I don't know how many people they plan to staff there. I mean, I was under the impression they were going to have one house parent in the evening. And this poor lady, she couldn't take care of all the kids by herself. She had the kids help her, like the older kids. I mean, you just, it's just not possible. You can't be.
1 to 8 was the ratio that they.
But there was going to be a house parent or whatever in a common area at night.
That was at
It's
night.
split at night.
Yeah, at night.
So you hope they're all sleeping. So
then
have
that
two of them
should be
do.
two For the 16.
So there would be 2 people. So there would be one raising 8 children. Okay, I hope they have very good credentials. And I don't know, I'm just used to being in a single family residence, and all of a sudden, and I know Mr. Murphy brought up that he was on, and I wasn't going to say this, but I'm up here, so I am, that, when I asked him last week where he lived, he didn't live near it, and he said, oh, but I did. And it was almost like, I was so humble and whatever that, gee, I lived on the campus. I even raised my kids on the campus because my job dictated that I be there 24/7. Okay, well, that's his job dictated. If he didn't want to do that job and get a pay, which is, I'm sure, very handsome of a paycheck, he didn't have to do that. I'm not getting paid to have all of a sudden, and don't get me wrong, I want to help everybody, but I just think there's another place maybe for the youth home part of it. More centralized, as they mentioned in here, they want it to be central. And like you spoke with somebody at Masonic that wasn't thrilled about it. I've spoke with a couple people that they're a little bit nervous about having kids in the intergenerational. I think they're happy just to be retired and away from kids. They've already escaped them. But yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know. I guess I'm done because I don't know what else I'm trying to say.
Don't forget your purpose.
Thank you very much. There's a police officer behind you. Every move you make. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I would change the steering wheel.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, please, let's keep it together. Let's keep it together. Is there any further discussion?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
Our solicitor elaborated on how preliminary these motions are. He can correct me, but there are federal, state, county, and local conditions on both the decision by Masonic as to how they proceed, and the same conditions apply to us as to how we make a decision.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, so there are two motions. Yes, sir?
I have a discussion on this topic. I just wanted to.
Let's stick to this topic for now, please. Any further discussion on this topic? All right, so there are two motions on the table, and I made the first motion, so I'm gonna do some housekeeping work on this. First of all, you'll see on the screen is the text of my motion that's on the table. And in looking at that motion off calendar, I realized that it was perhaps not quite as purposeful as what I wanted it to be. And in particular, I think that the concern is that it makes it sound as if the motion would be enacting the zoning change, which is not the goal. So my first motion is going to be to amend my motion on the table so that it reads to refer an amendment of the text of the Aleppo Township zoning ordinance. Refer a proposed amendment? I can do that. Refer a proposed amendment of the text of the Aleppo Township zoning ordinance to the Township Planning Commission and County, which adds a definition for a children's home and amends the definitions of a continuing care retirement community and life care faculty and senior living community as specified in the letter dated October 19, 2017. So that's my first motion, is a motion to amend the motion that's on the table.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion and a second to amend. Is there any further discussion with respect to the motion to amend? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, so then I have a motion. Let's do this tightly. All right, so that motion is the motion that's on the table now as amended. And then I move to table that motion until the December legislative meeting.
Second.
Like to look for discussion, I suggest that it be tabled until there's a request from the applicant to move forward. I don't think there's any guarantee we'll hear from them in December.
That's true.
I'm suggesting the discussion on the motion that's been made and seconded would be revised.
That's fine, so. I guess my only hesitance with that, Commissioner Darragh, is a question of notice. That we're gonna get or not get something off calendar, and then we're not gonna be able to really adequately tell folks whether or not the motion is on the table. So again, what I'd like to do from a perspective of keeping things open and.
Well, but as we explained during the discussion period, we're just following a process that we're required to follow. We're not making any affirmative decision or any decision on the proposed amendment at all. So,
It'll still be up to subsequent discussions.
right.
As
And it's going to go to the planning
mentioned.
commission. The planning commission is going to have to notice a public hearing, conduct its hearing, make its recommendations to us. We then take the recommendation. We can decide to schedule a public hearing in addition, and then following that, we can make our decision. So
I understand that, but there are certainly folks out here who have expressed that they don't even think we should.
But we don't have to abide by their calendar,
But I don't think we want
by the applicant's calendar. I mean, if they say do
Okay,
it,
hold on for 1 second. Let's have one conversation at a time. Please. Say that again. President Jones.
it would seem to me that we don't have to abide by the time schedule set by the applicant. If they were to give us notice they wanted to do it in December 2 days before, we could say no. We need more time.
We could, but I just don't know how you're gonna communicate that. And again, the other thing that I don't really want to be doing is sending out 15 emails a month. I've promised everybody as I collected their emails that I would send 2 messages a month. So I'm not really keen on telling people.
but you're not necessarily saving
Wait.
yourself.
Their letter said that they requested it to be on that the board tabled this discussion or on the matter until the board regular meeting in December.
But we're just not sure they're gonna comply.
Right. But
They have a lot of work to do based upon the questions that were asked.
they may be watching this tonight and realize that there's a whole bunch of questions that were raised tonight that we're gonna want answers to before we're ready to do anything, so.
Unless they're gonna be forthcoming with new information, I mean, we could discuss it next month or, but until they present us more information, can we really, how much further
Not
do
much
we
to-
have? I mean,
not much
people
more
can
we
come
can
in and give their opinions every time we have.
Well, there's no point.
But if we don't have new information.
Or is it, Matt, if you say December, they're not ready and aren't ready to respond to us by December, you're in position to tell people don't come because we're not gonna address it.
We are, I guess I'm taking them at their word that they're gonna be ready when they said they'd be ready. So I agree with it, okay.
You're in the lawyer business, how many times do people ask for further adjournments?
Well, they do, and I don't mind, I kind of hope they're ready, because I don't mind saying, I don't really appreciate getting off-calendar requests that we change our schedule. And I appreciate that they want to answer the questions thoroughly, but I hope that Masonic Village and any representatives from them appreciate our insistence that the public be kept in the loop on this and be kept in the loop in a way that is, frankly, convenient for them. So I do not expect that we're going to get into a swirly wind of showing up, as you say, showing up to court and getting a request for a continuance at the last minute.
Yeah, but all right, just one last one. There would be no point in our proceeding in December without new information.
I
So
agree.
wouldn't one point be, we need 30 days after receipt of information? I mean, if they handed me a pile of 200 pages with answers to the questions they couldn't answer before, I want 30 days from that point. So that activates my attention.
Okay, so
we're giving them 30 days. We could request 30 days.
Yeah. Give me information, I need 30 days. I mean, that's just a thought.
You should be able to adequately notify the public in that amount of time.
Within that 30 days,
I
that
believe
gives us
so.
that option.
Right.
Yes.
If they give me information tomorrow and want to meet Friday, I can't, first of all, I can't digest it.
Right.
And secondly, I can't help you digest it.
Is there a way we can consult with our planning and zoning board in advance to get their thoughts and opinions on this matter?
well, how are they going to do that without having a hearing?
Okay, so zoning would have nothing to do with it. It would all be through planning.
Planning, sorry.
Yeah, and yeah,
They need a formal application.
well, right. So they
Let's
have,
do a preliminary kind of assessment.
yeah, they
give
can,
some
they can always call
opinion.
for a, what do they call it? A pre-app kind of meeting where they just have the same kind of informational meeting like we're having, where it doesn't trigger any deadlines or trigger any formal procedures. So they can do that.
So it says.
But that's up
when
to
you
them.
submit your application, make sure you address the following.
But my concern is that, if our code does not allow for this and they are asking us to, provide it and saying, that it's an issue. As you mentioned before, if there are other options for allow this in our code, but to say to them that you have to provide us with alternatives versus just this one option on Redgate Road. Where else in our township is this permissible? It might not be a great impact, is what I'm thinking.
Without a rezoning, there is no place.
Well, I don't know if there's less.
I'm not
you
sure
know.
of that, but that's sort of for another day. I think
Okay.
your question was, is there a way to instruct the planning commission on matters that concern the commissioners so that their recommendations are focused on things that you're focused on? Is that your question?
Well, just like an assessment of, to be allowed within our township, where would it not create such, this sort of impact?
Well, that's kind of up to the planning commission on how broad they want to be in their recommendations. But typically, the planning commission would only review what was being requested. They wouldn't offer alternative suggestions.
So it's up to
Normal.
the client would have to come forward with an alternative. Could we ask them for an alternative from them other than the site?
Yeah, you can suggest anything you want to them when they come back in, and you can say, well, we're going to refer this to the planning commission. When we do that, we'd like you to address the following things. I think you can do that in your next meeting with them.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
not
Sorry.
the motion that's on the table. So the motion right now that I'm making is a motion to postpone until after Masonic Village informs us that they have additional information to share.
That's,
All right, so there's a motion and a second from Commissioner Dara. Is there any further discussion with respect to this motion? The motion is to postpone the original motion on the table. Hearing no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion to postpone, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion carries 5-0. Okay. That gets us to a place then where the next motion that's on the table is Commissioner DePaga's motion to extend the period to review the second option.
I would do the same as what we did for yours.
second.
So there's a motion and a second to postpone the main motion until after Masonic Village informs us that they have additional information to share. Is there any further discussion with respect to that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That motion carries 5-0. I believe this brings to an end all of the outstanding, all of the old business with respect to the Masonic Children's Home. Does anybody have any other business they want to discuss with respect to the Masonic Children's Home? We still have significant other business to discuss. Is there anybody that wants to get up and leave? And if you want to, could you do it now so that we don't create a ruckus later in the meeting? Thank you, folks. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's a motion on the table that was made and seconded last week and then tabled for 1 week. And the motion is to approve the core sampling work as specified in the October 13, 2017 letter. Since that's on the table, it does not require a second. It's ready for action. Is there any further discussion with respect to the motion to approve the core sampling work as specified in the October 13, 2017 letter? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That motion carries. Thank you. There is another motion on the table. This motion is a motion to schedule our legislative meeting for the third Tuesday of March in 2018. That motion was made and seconded last week and then tabled for 1 week. That motion is already on the table. It does not require a second. Is there any further discussion with respect to the motion to schedule our legislative meeting for the third Tuesday of March? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. There's another motion on the table. It's a motion to authorize the solicitor to grant an extension for 30 days to negotiate the franchise agreement as requested by Verizon. That motion was made last week and seconded. It was then tabled for 1 week. Since that motion is already on the table, it does not require a second. Is there any further discussion with respect to the motion to authorize the solicitor to grant an extension for 30 days to negotiate the franchise agreement as requested by Verizon? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, there is at old business 7E, a suggested motion? A motion is not on the table. Anybody going to make the motion as suggested?
I move to reapprove the Trapisano plan of lots number 5 due to prior approval expiration.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion with respect to this? We talked about this last week, although it was not moved. So is there any further discussion with respect to this? And I guess to reiterate just sort of the procedural posture of this, this is something that we approved over the summer and he couldn't get it filed in time, is that correct?
Couldn't get it recorded at the county.
Yeah.
So the plan has not changed, you're just extending the date.
Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay. Then there is motion at 7F. It's not on the table.
I move to adopt Act 172 resolution.
Second.
Is there any further discussion with respect to that? And Gwen, can you just tell us again, I asked you off calendar, and you gave me a good explanation. Can you tell me the difference between this resolution and what we voted on earlier?
In October, you approved an ordinance extending a tax credit, both earned income and real estate, to volunteer firefighters and EMS volunteers. That would, establishing the credit is what you did via ordinance. This resolution is the companion that sets the criteria for qualifying for that tax credit.
All right, so then is there any further discussion with respect to that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, is there any other old business? Hearing none, turning to new business. I'm sorry?
Do you have something you want?
Well,
No, you.
Hey.
You know what, I was gonna address the chief, but he's gone, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I feel bad.
He was just gonna say thanks.
I gotta commend him for.
Put that on record.
Yes, put it on record.
Let's wait until citizen participation. I'm sorry, that's not old business. Let's do it citizen participation. Okay, old business, new business. There's a motion at 8A in the agenda.
Want to do the background on this?
Yes, this, we got a change order, we got the pay request and the change order for the paving project that was done on School Street and Hill Road. And it was a line item bid, so it was based on quantity at the end. And so it went slightly over in material, both in the paving material and in the tar and chip material. And I talked to the engineer and he said basically because School Street is a road that varies in width throughout the whole length of it. They did an estimate of what they thought it would cost, but they ended up using a little bit more material to kind of stretch the road out as far as possible. So that.
It was a time and material contract. to
Yes.
begin with.
Yeah, and they did a very good job with what they had to work
I
with.
move to accept the change order number 1 from Young Blood Paving, School Street, Hill Road resurfacing project,
Second.
as approved by our engineer.
All right, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, all those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, with respect to new business, the 2018 budget draft.
Here it is. If you'd like to take one and pass it down. Thank you. What you are receiving is the draft of the budget. This is the second revision because the first revision was reviewed by the budget committee, which is George and Clayton. Like me. So it went through a couple rounds of tweaking numbers. And this is the proposed budget, and it does not propose a tax increase. So we tried to balance the budget without a tax increase this year.
Where are the cheers?
I haven't seen that. And that's gonna be one of my questions with public participation.
Okay.
I'll
Go ahead.
cheer later.
When you hear there's no tax
Yeah, I'm
increase? sorry, Glenn, I didn't mean
tabling
to
my
interrupt you.
cheer.
You're right. You're fine.
So the couple pages in the front is a memo that hits a lot of the highlights of the budget. We have a lot of normal costs, normal operating costs that are generally fixed, but this memo points out some of the more interesting categories or the categories that have made noticeable changes from prior years. So property tax is proposed to stay at 3.5 mils. Earned income tax collections have increased a little bit, so we are increasing our anticipated collections on that by $10,000 from last year to this year, because we have come in over budget for the last several years, so now we feel comfortable that we can move up the expectation a little bit. Local services tax has increased by only a very small amount, and 1/3 of that tax that's collected is given to the fire company as a further contribution. Interest earnings have gone up. It's not a major component of our budget, but there's some new products that we're using at Pliget, which is our main savings bank, and so we increased the budget, the expected interest earnings from $2,000 to $10,000, which is up from 1 year. I think we got $300 total. So the market has been slowly improving. The most significant change in the budget that you'll see under revenues is the transfer from other funds line item. That's a line that's been added to better reflect money that we're pulling from the capital improvements account, which is the paving savings account. And we intend to spend money this year. So it's showing the money coming into the budget from the savings account. And then further down in spending, it shows it going out for intended paving project next year. We're just taking it from the savings account, but we want to show it coming in and then going out. We did budget $13,000 for a one-time transfer from the fund balance to cover startup costs for GIS. We don't know if that's going to be what the cost is, but we put that in. We recommend that it would be a good thing to start this year as a GIS program so that we can get all of our mapping and sewer lines and roads and street signs and all that stuff in a system that's much more easy for us to keep track of what we have and where it is. Those are the main highlights for the income side. For the expenditure side, we have salary increases. Always start with a proposed 3% cost of living increase, and some of them have been adjusted according to duty changes. Health insurance premiums, full-time employees receive health insurance, and there was a 12.5% increase in costs. That includes the dental and vision, which they did not go up. Legal fees are similar for regular township business legal fees, unrelated to sewer. That's in a separate line item lower in the budget. The fire company contribution, you'll see a $10,000 change in the pilot from Masonic and the fire company contribution. 10 years ago, the fire company approached Masonic and asked for an advance on the $10,000 that Masonic allocates through the pilot to the fire company. So the Masonic accommodated them and gave them an upfront $100,000 advance on their contribution to assist in the purchase of the ladder truck. That 10 years is up now, so the pilot is increasing by $10,000, but so is the fire contract is increasing by $10,000. So that money is coming from Masonic to the fire company. So that's why both of those line items went up by that amount. We continue to allocate $20,000 a year to the truck fund, which is a savings account we keep to save money for trucks so that we can purchase trucks in rotation and not have to pay interest on them. We don't have to finance them, and we just budget for them. And so we're slightly off, but we're getting back on our schedule of replacing a truck every 3 years. So each truck has 9 years of service because we have 3 main trucks. I then talk about the $300,000 for paving. The thought is that, according to our road study plan, that Sewickley Heights Drive would be the next road to get paved, and that's why you voted to approve the core sampling on that road to see what the road is, so you know what the paving project specs will need to look like. There's another new line item added at the end of the budget, transfer to capital improvements, which shows the money that's being put back in the capital improvements, the paving savings account. We wanted to show them separately so it didn't look like we weren't spending $300. We could have shown it as $200, but we wanted to break it out so we could see the money coming in to be spent and then the money coming from the budget going back into savings to continue to fund that as a yearly funding of paving projects. You probably don't care, but that's just an accounting thing that I want to see it clearly. We have increased the budgets in the sewer category for legal fees. We incurred more legal fees than budgeted last year, and we anticipate that there'll be more to continue this year. So that budget has gone up. And those are the main highlights. There's a lot of pages here to look at, and if you have any questions, you won't be voting tonight. You will be voting next month because this has to be adopted via ordinance, and that has to be advertised. Plus, I need time to have questions from everyone here if you have any clarification questions or comments or anything. So get those back to me in the next 2 weeks so that we can answer them in advance of the adoption on December 18th. And the budget does have to be adopted by the end of the year. So if for some reason there was a big catastrophe, we could hold special budget hearings the week after Christmas, but nobody likes to do that. So let's aim for December 18th.
Well, you're going to advertise a motion that you have, or an ordinance that you haven't made yet?
Yeah, every year there are two ordinances. There's a millage ordinance that sets the millage. So I copy and paste the years on that one because we haven't had to increase taxes in a couple of years. And then there's an ordinance that says the budget will be adopted, and it has a line item. It has just the total expenditure amount, the revenue amount, or the expenditure amount. So that's what goes in the ordinance. And then after we adopt it, we publish the summary also.
But don't you need to make this available?
It will be available starting tomorrow. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is the proposed budget?
Yes.
And then also, you'll, in your ad, you'll let people know that the proposed.
Anytime we advertise an ordinance, it states that the ordinance is available in the office for inspection.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is you're inviting commissioners to make changes at this point.
I am, because you can, up until the moment that it's adopted, we can change that one line item. The advertising says we will be adopting a budget on this date. That's what the ad reads.
And what you're doing is you're advertising the proposed budget. So in case anyone from the public wants to come up, look at it, and show up at your meeting with comments, you can always amend it prior to the adoption. So you're not advertising an ordinance, you're advertising the proposed budget, not the ordinance.
Would you go to page 5? 2008. See it?
What did you say?
Just the 5th page.
Yeah.
The public works line item.
Mhm.
The 660,454. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Most of that is normal public works spending, but that also includes the $300,000 transfer, the $300,000 expected expenditure for Sewickley Heights Drive paving.
I thought people needed to know.
Sure. Yeah, that's why there's a large jump from 17
Right.
to 18, because there's a big project proposed.
Okay, so you know my question, you know exactly where this is coming, right? If this is something that we expect the public to look at and have an opportunity to comment on, is this a document that I can circulate with the digest from tonight's meeting?
Sure, because it's going to be in the newspaper, just like this.
Yeah, the summary will be in the newspaper.
Right, and it's going to say you can come and review it at the township building.
Okay. And so, can you just help me with the language for the digest? Tell me this is.
The proposed 2018 budget?
Yeah, 2018 budget. It will be voted on an ordinance at the workshop meeting.
Nope, December 18th legislative meeting.
Comments may be received at any time prior to adoption.
You have the wrong date there.
2018.
You mean 17.
See why it's so good to have people here?
We can't type either.
Not that bad.
That would make us more consistent with Harrisburg.
Yes. It would be 2019.
Okay. Everybody understand? Any questions? I mean, I want to take an opportunity and thank Manager Patterson, Vice President Jones, Clayton Stoop. I know this is difficult, and I know it's very easy for us to just look at it and take it for granted. And really, I appreciate hard work, and I know it's not easy, so thank you very much.
Thank you, and I want to give Manager Patterson 97% of that applause.
Now we,
Yeah.
now we applaud. Yes.
Okay. Good. On-time budget that's balanced, doesn't have a tax increase.
Life is good. Yes.
Sometimes you gotta stop and say thanks for the little things, right?
That's a big thing.
Okay. Citizen participation. Come on up, identify yourself.
Don Black, Weber Road. I don't know if this is the forum for this, but you can stop me if you want to. My wife and I are family members of a murder victim, which is one of the reasons we moved here in the first place, to get away from the city and such. And I was just going to commend the chief and any other law enforcement that participated a couple weeks ago in the event over at in Ohio Township, getting that alleged murder off the street. Because we're really sensitive to that kind of thing. I know a lot of my neighbors were keeping their kids locked up until it was all over. And I just, since it's the week of Thanksgiving, I was just going to comment that we're thankful for the law enforcement we have, the township we have. And I'm going to write him a letter, but I thought I'd be heard here.
Second.
Nice. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
Sandy Moore, I wish I would have went first because I feel for you guys. Anyway, I don't want to get emotional. Did I read one time that you had in one of your digest things that the question was asked about maybe having Amazon come here?
Oh, my goodness.
No, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. And I thought the response was, that isn't the vision of the future vision of Aleppo. So I'm just curious, what it has nothing to do with Amazon. I just want to know, what is the future vision?
Okay.
Or what's your thought?
You read that in the Herald.
Is that where I read that?
That was-
Okay,
that was-
I don't know where I read it.
That was a joke that perhaps was taken out of context. So Amazon would never think to come to Aleppo.
Well, that's what I mean, I figured that.
Amazon is looking for
Somewhere a little bit
15
bigger.
times the
Yes.
space.
And I understand that.
Flat.
That's why I said it has nothing to do with Amazon coming, because I thought, okay, there's something crazy there. But the comment of, and I know how newspapers are, so this is probably, it probably didn't even say that's not in the future of what our vision of Aleppo is. But if you made a comment about the vision, the future vision of Aleppo, or what your thought is about, what is your thought about that? Or that has nothing to, just forget this whole conversation. Right?
I mean,
Do you see where I'm going with this? I mean, did you make a comment about the future vision of Aleppo?
Excuse me?
Did you make a comment about the words of a future vision of Aleppo?
I think
Kinda
there
went
was a
along with
comment
the
that was
Amazon.
made in that respect, but again, the entire thing is in the context of a joke. So there is no suspicion that Amazon is coming here.
I realize
No,
that.
I think it had to
I'm
do
not
with
going
the-
with it. Forget
with
I
the
said
part.
Amazon. I just want to know the phrase that you said. I'm not yelling at you. Forget it was Amazon. I
No,
was
I can
just
answer
doing
this.
like the build up to
Okay, I can
where I
answer
got
this.
that from.
Okay.
I just want to know,
Okay,
what is the
I
vision?
can answer your question.
Thank you.
So
What you think?
Aleppo, as part of its comprehensive zoning and its vision and its mission, has a comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan was based on a lot of planning and a lot of time spent. And so that's available, and you can read in there what the future vision is in terms of land use, in terms of. Now, on top of that, if you go back a few years before we did our comprehensive plan, there was something called the 411 Visioning Study. And the 411 Visioning Study formed the basis for a lot of the zoning decisions and a lot of the aspects of the comprehensive plan. And it was done, it's getting a bit old, but it's worth looking at if you really want to see what the vision was, at least as of the last decade as to how we were going to develop Aleppo in conjunction with Sewickley, Osborne, Hayesville, and our neighbors as part of a vision.
But that's 10-year-old
It was-
information.
It's-
It was the 741 visioning.
Oh, I'm,
You're looking
what did I
for
say?
Okay,
411? No, not
Oh,
41.
not
I remember.
741.
Wasn't
Yeah,
that
I remember
big? It was only 741.
741, yeah.
But it
Okay, I
actually,
remember.
and I can't tell you that, but there's a lot of data, in there.
Yes.
I've looked at it recently because I do refer to it from time to time for planning and zoning. There is a lot of information in there that remains accurate in terms of the comprehensive plan and the vision for the township. There's probably data in there that is outdated, but a lot of it is still valid.
Still, okay, so whenever you were talking with, and if they asked you that question, that's why you made that joke back to them.
I'm not gonna back up anything that was said because that was a joke. So there is no, that joke was not based in any reality with respect to a vision that Amazon was coming. It was a joke.
Okay, I realized the Amazon part. I just.
The whole thing
The
was a
whole thing
joke.
was a joke.
The whole thing was a
So
joke.
you and the newspaper had a joke session, okay. All right, that's okay.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
That's all. So
What
there's
appears
no-
to be a joke, because I don't understand why they would come here anyway.
Harlan, on that same topic, when do we do, or what do we do to update our comprehensive plan? Like, often, again,
We're going through that now. I think there's a process that started for reviewing the joint.
Basically, they
comprehensive
asked
plan.
us if we were interested in revisiting it. Osborne has approached a couple times and asked if we were interested, and I said, we're always interested in talking about it, somebody has to do the proposal to bring the consultant back in to revisit.
aren't there like state or county deadlines for those documents?
No, there's just best practices, and best
Okay.
practices are, I
10 years.
think,
I think 10 years, I think is what
Every
it's
10
due.
years is best practice.
It's about 10 years, so it's due, it's now,
Do we
right?
need, money in the budget for that study?
I think that the update is probably would cost a couple $1,000s.
Okay.
And we would do it in conjunction with our comprehensive partners, that's Sewickley and Osborne, so
We do enjoy
Share it.
share the cost.
we share
Yes.
it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Good question. Yes, sir.
Get up.
Vincent Ferry, Merriman Road. Just want to make a quick comment and question. You guys are all talking about this paving company. I use School Street just about every day, twice a day. The people that did the paving did the worst paving job I had ever seen until it was tarred and chipped. The seams were separated. The one was higher than the other because they didn't have a wide enough machine to cover the whole thing, so they had to do it in 2 runs. It was horrible. And then once they put the tar and chipped on it, it looks nice. But the initial thing, if it would have stayed that way, it would have been terrible. You could actually gone off the edge a little bit. There was probably at least an inch gap in height between the 2 seams. That's comment number 1. Question. I think it was probably 2 weeks ago. I saw a drilling machine in the house at the corner there of Highballa and Merriman. It was a big machine set up. They were doing like you say, a core testing or bore testing. Any idea what that was for?
Was that sitting in the triangle at the? where the
Yeah,
roads
a
meet?
big yellow machine was set up there right
Yeah,
beside the red
I
brick
saw
house.
that. I noticed it.
Manager Patterson has something to say.
Yes.
For the first one, the paving that was done on School Street wasn't a full paving job. It was just a leveling course. That was not, if it was intended to be a full paving job, yes, it was terrible. But because it was just a leveling course, meaning to try to get the dips out in the road, and we knew that the tar and chip was gonna come over, that's why it was, we did
That's
not
why I said
pay.
without the tar and
We
chip,
did not
it would
pay
have
for a
been
full
terrible.
paving because that did not meet the standards of full paving. This was a
Okay.
much less
I was
expensive
gonna say, if
option.
you paid for full pavement.
Yes,
you
no,
got-
we did not.
you
We
got
and we
sorted.
knew it was,
It's a profile.
yeah, it was a profile. You just kind of.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
then we've heard that they are doing core testing on the various properties in Masonic, including up near Redgate. We'd heard that the machine was up there also drilling core samples on around the.
I think right now there's
and then
an orange flag and like a marker sticking where they were. Have you noticed that? When you come out right there, there's a marking where they drilled.
Checking this.
They were there probably 2 days. Sitting up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes.
You want to talk again?
Yes, I do. Art
Come on up.
Capuzzi Weber. I want to thank the chief. He isn't here. You know that we've been addressing, traffic issues on Weber. He's been very, very accommodating. You have been very accommodating. I wanted to thank Commissioner Williams about the work on the pump station, because I think my hair was 5 shades darker when I first heard him talking about this, and it's an aggravation. I appreciate your work. A question to the,
Wait till it's finished before you send the.
well, you know, you got to kick the can around before you get it somewhere. If Solicitor Stone, I know Commissioner Williams had tracked down the source of the violation. If they should violate again, who actually enforces the violation? Our township or the Environmental Protection Agency, or?
Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually something called concurrent jurisdictions.
Yes.
So it could be DEP, it could be state. It could also be us, or it could be our treatment plant would be Sewickley. So it could be any one of those three or all of those three. So it's kind of a concurrent situation.
Okay, thank you. I want to again express my adamant disapproval of an enforcement officer. I expressed that last week, but I wanted to do it again. I wanted to thank Tom, and Tim isn't here, for the leaves. They were down there like 2 little bees around a hive blowing all those leaves away. This last rain and wind, though, has brought down a lot more. I don't expect them to be out again because they are addressing the trucks for the coming winter weather. I want Tom to know that I'll do what I can to keep our catch basins clear, you know, close to our house. Because I think a few years back, we had a sinkhole that developed because of poor drainage. So that was that. I wanted to thank all of you for making us very solvent. You know, there were some years back that, I mean, every time you came up here, someone was out there with a tin cup asking for money, you know. So it's great to hear all this surplus we have. And yes, I think I cheered the last time you said there wasn't any tax increase. I will again thank you. To me, it's a thankless job. You know, some people come up here and beat you up just about every meeting, but I'm not saying any names. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for not talking about speeders.
There was one guy, but we'll take care of him. We'll take care of him. The chief's been good about it. It has slowed them down considerably.
Anybody else? All right, we have on our agenda an executive session. Who's calling for that?
It's just standard on the agenda. We
Oh,
don't have to have one.
jeez. That's where I like to come to. It's a
Pretty much, I
serious
just
thing.
added it as a standing
Solicitor
line.
Stone, is there a need for executive session?
I don't think so.
All right, so then, we
You
are
could ask who
adjourned.
wants to leave, right?
Thank you all.
All right, thanks,
Have a nice
Matt. Thank you,
holiday
everyone.
coming.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Yes.
everyone.